So there we have it, the lineup is complete for the AFCON 2025. It flew by just like that. 6 match days, back to back, September through to November. We now know the identity of the 24 teams that will take part in the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, which kicks off in December of next year. Now, we don't know when the date for the group stage draw is yet. No doubt it will probably take place in Morocco at some point next year. But we know the 24 teams have qualified. We don't know the exact parts, the exact seedings, the exact rankings they're going to use. But we have a rough idea of how it's going to look. So while we look at the teams that have qualified for the competition, I've kind of my own personal opinion on the pots, what it could roughly look like. It's generally going to be like this, of course. Remember, there's going to be World Cup qualifiers, of course, which will affect the FIFA ranking, which CAF will use when the draw comes around. So there won't be this exact pots. I'm sure this will change a little bit, but just to give a clearer picture of who's qualified, let's take a look. So we, of course, knew Morocco as the host nation were going to qualify. They were the first team to qualify as the hosts, of course. And then pretty much all of the big hitters, all of the pot 1 teams in qualifying qualified bar Ghana. Ghana had a stinker. We know Ghana aren't going to be at the tournament, but in pot 1 it's looking like Morocco, Algeria and Egypt, the 3 from North Africa. Probably Ivory Coast, the host nation, Senegal and Nigeria, the other 2 big hitters. So I think from an Algeria point of view, you want to be in pot 1 because you can't play any of those other 5 in the group phase. It's really, really important, particularly with no Ghana, no Guinea, no Cape Verde. It weakens pot 2. So a good opportunity to have an easy group phase, or an easier group phase, we should say, considering how the last AFCON group phases have gone. So those 6 usual suspects are followed up by what's going to be not as strong pot 2 as recently. You're going to have Tunisia in there. You're going to have Cameroon. Now, of course, if you're in pot 1, you're not going to want to play Tunisia or Cameroon. Even if you think Tunisia aren't great, you don't want them in the group stages. So Tunisia and Cameroon in there. Of course, if Algeria were to draw Cameroon, could there be a bit of revenge there for the gaming bleeder? And then a bit of a weakened pot 2, but not that weak. But you know what I mean? Burkina Faso, South Africa, Mali, these sorts of sides you can see in there. Would you really be that fearful? You'd expect if you're a pot 1 side to deal with whatever you're thrown at from pot 2. But I think really you're going to want to avoid Tunisia and Cameroon. South Africa could be a little bit of a dark horse. We know they're good. They came 3rd last time out. But in the group stage where 2 and even 3 teams can go through, you'd expect things to be a little bit easier. So there were probably the 12 strongest teams. And then I think the other 12 teams is where it gets really interesting. Now, like I said, some big teams not going. Ghana, Guinea, Cape Verde, Mauritania didn't qualify. Gambia didn't qualify. Namibia didn't qualify. These teams could be a bit of an unknown quantity in pots 3 and 4 when the draw comes around. Look, fair play. A lot of these teams have done really good to qualify. You've got Benin back in the AFCON. You've got Comoros back in the AFCON. You've got Botswana back in the AFCON for the first time since 2012. In fact, only the 2nd time ever that Botswana have qualified. Some will say, controversially, was there a bit of an elbow to score the goal with against Egypt away? But Botswana are there. Really good achievement. Botswana are unbeaten in their last 4 games, by the way. Thoroughly deserve to be there. Finishing ahead of Mauritania and Cape Verde. Zambia are back. Gabon are back. Is Aubameyang still got it at that age? Can he have one last say? Gabon a threat. Only time will tell. Mozambique, of course, another team Algeria have to deal with in the World Cup qualifying. They're a good team. Mozambique look like a good side. So Zambia, if they have Patson Daka, Zambia are a good side. We saw the last AFCON Zambia were poor, if we're being totally honest, out very early on in the tournament, but still managed by Avram Grant. I don't know. You look at those teams and you think if you're a serious contender for winning this tournament, you've got to be able to put away whatever's there. And I think a lot of the teams in the sort of pot 3s and pot 4 areas, they're just delighted to qualify. And whatever happens after that is a bonus. Let's look at some of the other sides. Tanzania qualifying to beat Guinea, to knock Guinea out. Tanzania in the AFCON. They were in the last one as well. Again, didn't do too particularly well. Sudan. What an incredible story. If for Sudan, whoever they got in the group, it's 3 cup finals. It's 3 AFCON finals for Sudan. They do not even have the right to have qualified. And the fact that they did, can't play at home, had to play in Libya, you can only commend it. It's really fantastic. And Sudan, I'm sure whatever happens in this campaign will bring some much needed joy to the faces of Sudanese people. You've got Comoros at their 2nd ever Africa Cup of Nations. What a story for Comoros coming out of that group with Madagascar and Gambia. And I think Comoros are very underrated. And I think if Comoros were in pot 4, You do not want Comoros. Comoros are a danger. We saw the last time ever they were at the AFCON when they did to Ghana. They played Cameroon in the knockout stages, I think, with a left back in goal. You do not want Comoros out of that pot. But look at some of the teams. Botswana, it's just quite extraordinary, some of the teams that have made it into this tournament, and you have to fully commend them for doing that. Looking at, well, Equatorial Guinea, of course, we're in the group with Algeria in qualifying. We saw last time in 2021 when Algeria had Equatorial Guinea, it didn't go too well. But yeah, we know the identity now of all 24 teams that have qualified, and you can see them. It's going to be a good AFCON. I think people are going to say no Ghana, no Guinea. It might weaken it. I think particularly with those big sides out, Ghana, Guinea, Cape Verde. Guinea and Cape Verde, of course, quarter-finalists last time. Couldn't even qualify this time. Algeria are going to make it out of the group for sure. There's no excuse this time, even in North Africa as well. After the group, of course, whatever happens may be. But I think it's going to be a good tournament. We've got some nice countries there. No new nations. All of these nations have been to the AFCON before, so it's not their first taste of tournament football. There's the 24. Let me know your thoughts on those teams in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.